What's going on, everybody? Welcome into On3 Sports. I'm Nick Kosko, and with me today is Michigan defensive tackle and NFL draft first-round pick hopeful Mason Graham here today with Head and Shoulders. Mason, good to talk to you ahead of the NFL draft on Thursday. Looking forward to seeing where you end up in the first round. But first, we'll talk about your partnership with Head and Shoulders, which is why you are here today, and obviously with a great head of hair as you do have. Tell me a little bit about your partnership with the company.
Yeah, I mean, just cool getting to know everyone here. Obviously, Head and Shoulders has done a lot for me. So, it's cool to, work with a brand like this and, work on their behalf.
When you work with a brand like that, obviously you guys like Troy Polamalu, NFL legend, current legend right now, Patrick Mahomes, like you're now in that group, so to speak. What's that been like?
Yeah, I mean, it's cool just seeing, especially when I was growing up, seeing Troy grow up and, seeing how like me and his hair and Patrick too, kind of blends in. So,
Yeah, absolutely. I use the brand too, so I'm with you on Head and Shoulders. So let's talk a little bit about football right now. Throughout your career at Michigan, you were getting pretty much better and better each season. Got a lot of times a true freshman. You helped Michigan win a national title as a sophomore, and you basically had one of your best years, if not your best year ever, this past year. Your final collegiate season before the NFL draft. Just how do you look back on your career in Ann Arbor, and what really led you to pretty much getting better every single season?
I mean, I feel like there's a lot to remember. I went, from the highs to the lows, winning national championships and, not even making the playoffs. So I feel like, everyone that comes to Michigan is like-minded, has like similar goals, winning national championships, Big Ten championships, beating, Ohio State.
Hmm.
So I feel like just the guys when I came as a freshman, Mozzie Smith, Chris Jenkins, just learning from those type of guys, and then just progressing myself as a player, and then obviously, the same effect as I hope guys look up to me, and try to recreate what me and some of my other teammates did.
Did you embrace that leadership type role? Because you just mentioned guys like Chris Jenkins and Mozzie Smith that you were learning from. Did you embrace that the role that they had when you were a freshman? Now that when you were a junior this past year, where like, okay, you're the guy in the middle of that defensive line. Did you take some other guys under your wing and kind of just give back to what you received when you were a freshman?
Yeah, for sure. I feel like it really started. My freshman year, I came in with open ears. Just trying to learn and do whatever I could to be on the field. But once my sophomore year hit, things kind of changed. I knew I was gonna have a bigger role and kind of just took that head on.
When you take on that bigger role, especially that sophomore season when you guys do go on to win a national championship, was there something at the beginning of the year where you're like, okay, I know I can be special individually and collectively we could be a special unit based on, I guess, previous success? Was it early on you knew that, or did it not happen until later during that season?
No, I kind of knew just we had a lot of depth. Going into that season, we had just on the D line. I'm talking, we had 5, 6 guys that could really play, and I wasn't scared to if I was too tired to sub out. I wasn't scared of them the play dropping off. So yeah, just had a bunch of group of guys, all bought in for the same goal.
I'm curious about your thoughts on this past season. Again, you guys are coming off a national championship win. This year didn't quite go as as expected. Maybe a few less wins than you guys would have wanted. But you alluded to before, you did beat Ohio State. You guys got the win in the bowl game as well over Alabama. When you look back at this season, your final year on campus, what do you remember most about this about the 2024 campaign?
Probably just playing the last season with a lot of my best friends. We came in together, guys like Will Johnson, Colson Loveland, Kenneth Grant. We all came in together, and we just wanted to finish together. So I just feel like all the lasting memories that Michigan has brought to us. We honor that, and we made the best of our time there.
You obviously had to play this past season and not declare for the NFL draft the previous year like some of your teammates. Again, loaded defense, loaded team during that national championship run. So when you come back for this year, there was obviously a lot of change. You had some guys come back from the national title team, but again, Coach Harbaugh goes to the NFL. Sharon Moore steps up, takes over as the head coach. What were some of the biggest differences from 23 to 24? Was there certain cultural changes? Was it just, or was it just mostly, hey, schematically, we're going to change a little bit and try to have more success in 2024? What were your biggest takeaways going from Coach Harbaugh to Coach Moore?
I feel like there wasn't too much change. Coach Moore has been in the system for a while. He was previously before he got the head coach, he was the O line, and then he was the OC as well, coach. So he it wasn't nothing new to him. he even coached some of our games when Coach Harbaugh was, having stuff with the NCAA. So I mean, it was an easy transition, just different team, honestly.
The Michigan defense this past year was loaded. Guys like you mentioned Kenneth Grant before, Will Johnson at corner. I'm sure I'm forgetting a handful that are going to be in the draft this coming weekend. When you look at this defense, especially guys like Kenneth Grant and Will Johnson, you guys are all projected to be first-round picks on Thursday night. You could all have your names, be called by Commissioner Goodell, whether you're going to be there or not, maybe walk across the stage or get that phone call and be caught on TV. What's that like knowing that maybe all three of you are going to be called within the first 32 picks?
Yeah, I mean, it was cool. I mean, we just started reflecting on it not too long ago. We kind of like we really might have, even just throw Colson Loveland in there. We might have four first round picks in the same high school recruiting class and in
Yeah.
the same draft class. So it's just, I've been through the ups and downs with them. So it's cool seeing, all of our dreams come true at the same time.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. Who is planning on being in Green Bay, and who is going to be at home? Watching hopefully their name scroll across on Thursday night.
Yeah, me and Will are here, and then Colson and Kenneth are having their own little parties. I think Colson's in Idaho, and then Kenneth is doing his in Indiana, I think.
Is there anything that you and Will have planned in Green Bay? Are you going to sit next to each other in the green room and just be like, all right, here we go. Let's see who gets picked first?
I don't know if we have assigned seats or where everyone's sitting, but hopefully, we're sitting next to each other, or I can at least see him.
I'm curious about this draft process because, I mean, again, you just mentioned how, you and three other teammates could be all in the first round. It's kind of like a big, it would basically be the draft of Michigan at this point. With the NFL draft process, through the scouting combine, all your interviews, all your meetings with teams, what's really stood out to you about making this transition from college to the pros?
Well, I mean, just saying what you just said, kind of just being a professional, obviously at college, you have your own, schedule that you're sent every day, but, professional, you're really on your own, you use your time as obviously there's team stuff you have to do, but, a lot more time on your hands and really just how, you conduct yourself, just be a professional.
When you look at, I'll call it hype a little bit. But, when you look at all these mock drafts, guys like you could be projected to be a top 5 pick, and it's obviously a tremendous honor. And having being one of the first names called, is that stuff that you try to avoid? Do you pay attention to it, and then maybe use it as motivation? How do you deal with basically saying, here are all the accolades that you already got, and then that you could get, because a lot of these mock drafts say, hey, Mason Graham, top 5 pick. Maybe he goes to the Jaguars. Maybe he goes, 4, 5, or 6. How do you deal with all of that media noise ahead of the draft?
I mean, it's always a good thing to have that, people talk about you like that, but, when you get too invested in it, it could, overwhelm you, but I try not to, look at that stuff. Obviously people will send it to me every here and there, so I have seen it, but, just kind of just going in with an open mind, ready to, for Thursday to get that call from whatever team maybe.
I'm glad you have an open mind, and again, don't really care where you end up getting drafted. What's your elevator pitch to NFL teams? Did you come up with something during these interviews where you're like, all right, if I have 30 seconds with you, with the head coach or a GM, this is how you pitch yourself to one of those teams? What do you say?
I haven't really had an elevator pitch, but I just kind of, I feel like the tape speaks for itself. I've dominated. I feel like in the best conference for the past 3 years. Won a national championship. I played all over the field. I've played anywhere from like the zero all the way to a stand-up edge. Have dominated. So there's really nothing else for me to say, or I feel like it kind of just speaks for myself.
Do you think your era of defensive linemen kind of encapsulates this new version of defensive linemen? You have, guys your size could be traditional nose tackles, or as you mentioned, 0-1 techniques, but you just mentioned you're all over the defensive line. You can, stand up and play the edge as well. Do you think you have to be that versatile at this point to be highly successful in the NFL based on the way, I guess, defenses are constructed now?
I mean, I feel like you do, but I mean, everyone has their own case. There could be, Vita Vea is good at lining up over the center and the guard. So, I mean, he kind of does whatever. But yeah, I feel like there's just a new age of D linemen. There's different defenses now. Everyone's kind of doing their own thing. There's different play styles. So I feel like, it just really just goes into, how you fit.
Since you could play stand-up edge, if a coach asked you to say, hey, let fill in at middle linebacker, could you do that too?
Yeah, probably. I've dropped in coverage before, so I'm used to it.
Oh, I love hearing that. Mason, I have a couple more for you, and again, appreciate your time today. Ahead of the NFL draft. Going back to Head and Shoulders real quick. Do you have any events planned over the next couple of days before the draft? Afterwards, tell me a little bit more about your partnership and what you plan to do with them in the future.
Yeah, I mean, just open bond, open communication. Just trying to build the brand and
Mhm.
build each other. Obviously, Head and Shoulders has done a great job, and I want to help them build their brand while building mine. So
When you talk about building brands, and I'm just curious real quick on your take on this with NIL and obviously the transfer portal has been a big thing with college athletics over the last 5 years, always changing, always growing. What was your NIL experience like at Michigan? How do you see that unfolding more so as we move on year to year in college athletics?
yeah, I feel like it started. I think NIL started when I came in as my freshman year, so I didn't really have too much going on then. I was just trying to get on the field and kind of prove myself. But smaller deals started to trickle, and
Mhm.
then now I'm at the point where I'm working with Head and Shoulders. So I mean, I feel like just keeps on elevating and elevating.
I like hearing that. Last question for you, and again, I appreciate your time. Do you have your outfit picked out for Thursday night? Got a suit picked out, or what kind of style are we going for on Thursday?
Yeah, I have a suit. I've been working with Abercrombie and Fitch, so they've done a good job helping me, get that done. So just fine tuning it real quick and getting ready for Thursday.
And plan to put like the Michigan logo on the inside sleeve, or how are we gonna make that happen?
I got two little things in the sleeves, but I'll keep that
I'm
for
gonna,
later.
I'm looking forward to it now. I'm gonna definitely be tuning in and make sure I see when you are picked, so I can see the surprise on the inside of the jacket. I love it.
Yeah, for sure.
Mason Graham with me here on On3 Sports, as with Head and Shoulders, with the Michigan defensive tackle looking to become a potential top 5 pick on Thursday night's first round of the 2025 NFL Draft. Mason, good luck on Thursday. I'm looking forward to watching you in the pros now, continuing your football career. And again, thanks for your time today.
Yeah, appreciate it. Thanks for having me.